Okay, so I had some thoughts about the new OLED Nintendo Switch that I wanted to share with you guys. I'm someone who plays a lot of Switch. I have 3 of them. I've busted a bunch of controllers, like drifting controllers, but in general, I like the product. But I do not follow the leaks and rumors and kind of news around consoles very much, right? I got my hands in other tech. But a couple days ago, Nintendo announces the new OLED Switch. And my first reaction was like, that's awesome. An OLED screen, a bigger screen, an updated dock with the LAN port on the side. Like, it seemed like a nice little refresh. But then I hop into Twitter and I go on Reddit, and it seems like people are pissed. People wanted more. They expected more, right? And I think a lot of it stemmed from rumors and kind of early leaks that may have been mishandled, but it just seemed like people were expecting a brand new SoC, like a hard refresh. And when I first see these comments, I'm like, yeah, I agree. A new SoC on a Nintendo Switch would have been real nice. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, did the Nintendo Switch really need an upgrade? Like, I come from a world of smartphones and laptops where, you know, a manufacturer changes the color on the back of the device and people are like, that's awesome, and they go out and buy it. So to me, a nice refresh like this, I thought it was pretty cool. And then I looked into these rumors. There were reputable sources talking about the possibility of a 1080p OLED panel and a device that could be docked and output 4K 60. Like, it seemed like a pipe dream, right? We're talking about a small Nintendo Switch that has a very small fan, pulls maybe 10, 12 watts in the SoC. You think this thing can output 4K 60 to a TV like PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X? Those have a tough time doing it already. And those are big devices that have a ton of power draw. I get it. NVIDIA, DLSS, the whole idea of it sounds cool on paper, but to be able to pull that off on this size, right now especially, come on, man. What are we talking about? And the whole idea of a higher resolution screen, you want these things to be 720p. You want them for the lower power draw, the less strain on the GPU. Putting a 1080p panel on a device like this, that's not the move. Like, I really think this is what it should be. An OLED panel, bigger screen, 720p. You don't need to bump the SoC. But the big thing I want to talk about, the thing I think a lot of people are kind of missing from the conversation, is scale. I think when you look at the numbers of what the Nintendo Switch really is, it kind of puts things into perspective. So Nintendo Switch, super popular device. This is at this point, 4-year-old device. And they've sold, I think, around 90 million units, right? A lot of devices, very popular. And in their latest fiscal year, so from March 2020 to March 2021, they sold almost 29 million units of the Nintendo Switch. It's just a very, very well-selling device. But you need to keep these numbers in mind. So it's a 4-year-old device, 90 million units roughly sold over the past 4 years. And in the last year, like the one that just passed, almost 29 million units sold. Okay, so if Nintendo was to come out with a new product, like a new Nintendo Switch Pro, whatever they want to call it, they would need a ridiculous number of chips. Like, the fabrication to make a new chip for this new product would be impossible right now. Like, if you think about the GPU shortage, you think getting a graphics card was difficult over the past year? Can you imagine a Switch? There'd be no shot. It'd be like a scalper's wet dream to have Nintendo Switches that could scalp for like $1,000. It would be impossible. But the bigger thing I want to draw your attention to is the success of the Switch over the past year. So during the pandemic, for whatever reason, the Nintendo Switches just exploded in popularity. Normally, on a 4th year of a device, you do not see a massive uptick in sales, right? It's just, that's not normally how things go. It's like the first 2, maybe 3 years, any consoles like this, right, does well, then there's this natural decline. But on year 4 of the Nintendo Switch, it blew up. The pandemic and like the desire for gaming just exploded, and they are riding this sweet wave right now. And to introduce new hardware right now at the peak of their popularity, that'd be the dumbest thing to do. Who would want to do that? Any kind of business-minded person would be like, Nintendo, don't put out new hardware right now with a more powerful chip. You only want to do that when you have to, when your brand is on the decline and people aren't as interested in the console. That's when you do it. That's when everyone does it. Not right now, at the peak of their popularity when they sold 29 million units on their 4th year. Like, to put that into perspective, to put that number into perspective, PlayStation 5, I think they're going to hit like 11, maybe 12 million units on their first year, like the most popular year for the PlayStation 5. Same with Xbox. That's probably going to hit 8, maybe 9 million units sold. You see what I'm trying to get at? For Nintendo to be like, yeah, let's break that momentum. Let's just like, cut our sales and put out new hardware to appease the enthusiasts. What would that achieve for them? If anything, I would go so far as to say that even if they did have something planned, like let's say they had hardware lined up and they had the supply chain ready to go, pull the plug on that project. You want to ride this for as long as you can. That's the most Nintendo thing to do, because if they sold 29 million units on year 4, number 1, they don't need new hardware. Number 2, people are clearly satisfied with the existing hardware. Like, I don't care what the enthusiasts tell you, the numbers speak for themselves. People are perfectly happy with this. Just enough. And you know what? Nintendo's the king of doing just enough. Like the bare minimum to keep people happy and to make a ton of money in the process. But that's my take on the new OLED Nintendo Switch. I think it's kind of cool. Like, I think an OLED panel on a handheld device is really nice, but the truth is, they don't need new SoC. They really don't right now. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. See you guys next time.